Hi. Okay, so today we'll be looking at chapter 16 of Tortilla Flat by John Steinbeck. My name is Elise Braseth and I'm conducting this. Okay, we're going to start with a quick summary of the chapter. Danny's back, but he's still some bit off. He's kind of unengaged through this entire chapter. His friends see how down he is and decide to throw a huge party. Despite the expenses, they really try to come together in efforts to kind of cheer him up. Everyone's cooking and preparing and trying to really make it a special day in efforts to cheer him up, even though it doesn't seem like it's working. During the party, Danny still seems off and is ending up fighting everyone and yelling at everyone and just kind of causing a ruckus. There's one scene in the book where they say that his eyes look like streetcars or just like not even focused, just bright and just him being crazy. And he's drinking a lot. Everyone's drinking a lot, but him in particular is drinking a lot. And then he ends up forgetting where his house is, kind of like forgetting the layout of his house, and goes outside and ends up running and falling off a cliff near his house. Um, and doctors come, he's like rushed into the room, he's with the priest and his friends, and Danny actually ends up dying at the end of this chapter. Okay, so looking at the analysis in the passions, just starting with the title is chapter 16 of the sadness of Danny and how through sacrifice Danny's friends gave a party, how Danny was translated. One of the things that makes me think most about this is like the weight of poverty and how we've seen that in a lot of other things, but he was just so heavy, like he didn't appreciate his situation, he hated his situation, and because of it, that's how he ended up. It also makes me think of cynicism, his kind of distrust of his friend's motive and unappreciative of his friend's motive, and that kind of resulting in his acting out in his anger throughout the whole party. Also, something that stood out to me in this chapter is the juxtaposition of Danny being the center of the party and then shortly and like so full of life and present, even though he's like kind of not there, but and then like the juxtaposition between that and shortly after his untimely death. Um, and this really made me think of hedonism and just like the pleasure of is the as the highest good and just almost gluttony and just doing everything to the fullest. And then there's also just issues with greed and gluttony thrown in there. In Buddhism, greed is one of the three poisons that leads to evil, and it kind of is connected to his death. Similarly, greed and gluttony is looked down upon in that. Um, Danny's final words is, "I will go out to the one who can fight. I will find the enemy who is worthy of Danny." I saw this as Epicureanism and kind of the freedom from anxiety and mental anguish, especially from fear of death and of the gods. This is like a mix of him living presently but slash not living presently, and then also just him not fearing his own death and kind of the connections between those two. Questions for the group. Was Danny's death a suicide or an accident? They kind of didn't really hint towards that, and I think it was kind of up for discussion. He did clearly forget that there's a cliff there, but was it a subconscious fall or was it we weren't really there in his brain? So was it a suicide or an accident? What philosophy was Danny following through his last moments through the party? What would you say was his mentality? Was the party beneficial towards Danny and in celebrating him and remembering him, or was it kind of the cause of these last moments? And also, did Danny fear death or not? Was he afraid, or was he kind of running towards it? And was his death a part of his addiction, if that makes it like was his real death his addiction towards alcohol and partying and things like that? That is it, and thank you so much.